Welcome to Western Truth Radio. I'm your host, Sean Davis, and tonight we'll be discussing a topic that we briefed you in our last show. This is going to be an interview format, so it's just me and one other person, Count Vladimir Dracula. Say hello, Count.
Hello, everybody. I'm Count Vladimir Dracula. And as I will say again, I do not come to suck your blood. I'm Count Vladimus, Count Vlad the Impaler. I kill the vampires, and this topic is one quite suited to that.
Yes, so you're listening to Western Truth Radio for those who seek the truth over answers. And the topic that we have been discussing is soft power and non-linear warfare. We were discussing that before with not just the Count here, but Aussie G's, a good friend of ours. He was a bit perplexed by the non-linear warfare element. He helped sum up, I guess, the definition and example or two of soft power. So we'll just reiterate that again. So, Count, would you like to sort of elaborate on soft power first before we dive into non-linear warfare and get that up and running?
Well, soft power, Sean. He said it quite brilliantly.
You need a moment?
My name is Count Vladimir Dracula. A moment. Yes, sometimes I need a moment to say, and a moment to be me. But look, soft power, I mean, it is everywhere, and that has not changed. The power, the ability to use economics and culture to influence your opponents is well known and documented throughout the history of all the wars that humanity has been fighting, to their dismay and to others' delight. It's just interesting. But this non-linear warfare, this I say is a little different and a little new, possibly a little postmodern or post-postmodern. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying what I say.
Yes, okay, well that would be an introduction for those who have some idea already. There's probably some people who have no idea and just would think we're being slow. And there's other people who have some idea and think it's mildly entertaining, and others have stopped listening. Anyway, so yes, non-linear warfare, as I was saying before, it's basically where there's no boundaries. And I in my sort of defining of it, was sticking a bit too much to the internet. That has definitely changed it, or the capacity for it, or has enabled it. So globalization and the internet, things like the EU, all these things have enabled this non-linear warfare to be the prime type of war that is fought. We don't have large-scale battles. I mean, well, wars. We have battles, but we don't have wars anymore in terms of declared wars where alliances of one side go up against another side, and then there's a Great Depression and all this sort of thing. No, we have proxy wars, hybrid wars, all sorts of things. Because what in the physical world is brought in with this mix of everyone becoming a possible combatant is you have things like, well, as I said, hybrid wars. You've got separatist groups, you've got terrorists, you've got, and I'm separating this from other terrorist groups, Islamic State, all these things which are non-state actors, and they're playing and can keep playing an ongoing role of what's really called, by some, the Fifth World War. Now, I don't know, some can say, I'm not sure if we skip the third and the fourth, but it's defined as the Fifth World War. this war with no boundaries and and essentially no limitations, except a few, which we'll go into in a minute. Do you want to go into some of those, Vlad? It's quite interesting limitations, aren't they?
Well, yes, Sean. Not sucking blood. You can still do that, as you can see ISIS. Well, they suck blood, they chop heads off. Vlad, the Impaler.
Yes, you said you were the Impaler, so that does mean you might not be interested in sucking people's blood, but impaling people. You're not one of those ISIS crooks, are you?
I am Count Vladimir Dracula, Sean Davis. And it will be the last time I call you Lord, after hearing that sort of finger being pointed at me as such. No, continue with the topic.
You're telling me to continue. I was asking what you thought.
What do I think? Okay. So you're talking about the whole merging, and you want to know the couple secrets. Okay. So everything is now, everyone can be a combatant in this war. And there is really only, we'll call it one war, as you said, the Fifth World War. And every state, every person, every group, they can be, that they don't have to be, but they might be part of it. They're all part of it in some way. Because of, as you said, globalization and things, the internet, or World Wide Web.
Are you going to tell us what those little kernels that differ are? Because I'll preface it, you can tell them. Okay, so in the past, there's something missing in this non-linear warfare approach that in the past was very prevalent. It's there. It plays out very differently. Or is masterminded out very differently, at least. And that is, in the past, we had various sides. You can take Rome and Carthage, and they were very strong on the idea they were right about their ideas and their ideals and their philosophies and their ideology and what they stood for, their religion. And so they went to war, and Rome wiped out Carthage and ground them into salt and blah blah blah. We have the former Soviet Union and the now large super, what is it called? I don't know what they're called. I've lost what it's called. I know it's the United States, but the superpower, yeah. One superpower, the United States. So, but, okay, they were both superpowers, if you want to put it that way. And when they were fighting to protect their identities, their ideologies. Whether, and whether it's real on each side, and to what degree, if so, is not the point. The point is they were defending those values in action, and that people might dismiss that as, well, yeah, so what? But there is a difference, because now, instead of fighting for, whatever your little side of the box is, you're fighting for freedom and democracy and all this, or you're the Soviet Union, SSSR, and you're fighting the evil American imperialists, and you're trying to carry out your plan for your people. Maintaining those narratives is not part of the picture. Is what I've garnished for most of the world. Australia still has its narrative, but that's another story. It's a different story, and it having a narrative on its own doesn't really help. Anyway, so Vlad, I've started to explain. Would you continue?
Well, yes, Sean. So you say what it is, basically. And so now, one of the things is, yes, divorced of ideology. All sides fight. There is no bounds between where and who and what the sides are necessarily. And there is no bounds to if they are fighting today or not fighting tomorrow. This is a fluid, global, as it says, nonlinear war. It goes cross continents, cross boundaries, cross states. It goes through houses, through individuals. They will fight it out on the kitchen table. But they are fighting maybe issues. And those issues will change. But they are not fighting over any particular ideology, per se. I will preface that per se. Because we could say that there are those who would have an ideology implemented and don't want to, and are not in the position to, or there are those who have decided what we have is an ideology that is globalism, this form of capitalism. I notice I say this form because there are many forms, and liberalism, and that is the ideology people have accepted. And some on all sides are fighting each other, knowing that they're not fighting over ideology. So they are fighting each other for the most points in the game. And they will not bomb each other, in a full all-out war for the same reason. So you will have these hybrid wars, these proxy wars. You can take Russia and the Balkans and the USA and NATO, for example. They will fight over little territories. And rightly so, people in, say, former republics of the Soviet Union do listen to Russian media and do have friends and relatives in Russia. Okay, that makes sense. Why then they need to have NATO and USA have the same amount of influence? If they wanted to pay for it, as individuals and groups, maybe okay. But why is it set up? So NATO is there, European parliaments and councils, and they set up plenty of media to counteract and give their narrative of what is going on. And you will have these different things in the Balkans and surrounding and former republics of the Soviet Union, where some are very pro-Russian but want to stay where they are. Right? Then you have some who are very anti-Russian, like Latvia. Anyone from Latvia, they get very angry about Russia, and they do not want to be part of Russia. They want more NATO troops. They want NATO training. They want US troops. They want to be part of a liberal democracy and all this sort of thing. But my point is for the majority, not all. Some are fighting behind the scenes to implement their ideologies. Others either accept this as the ideology or don't even realize and talk about issues. Others are just going, this is it. We have reached the point of liberalism and democracy, and that is the best for everything and everyone. And everything else is just sorting out issue, individual issue, and spreading liberalism as far as it can go. And this is why it failed, where they tried to spread into the Middle East, and they failed trying to spread in Russia. In Russia, it is like if I could describe Russian liberalism, it came so fast. Yes. In the 90s and a little bit before. Yes. And so it metamorphosized into this creature. So, holistically, the Russian society is not liberal, but it is entangled by this web of liberal elite, oligarchs, and those who control the power structure that really embodies liberalism at its height. So, Russia is. This is going to upset everyone who likes Russia and everyone who doesn't, or everyone who likes liberalism, because Russia is the antithesis of all ends of this. They are showing you how far liberalism can go. They are the furthest out of anyone with taking liberalism and postmodernism. But then again, the overall society is nowhere near this and is dead against this. They do not want the liberal worldview. They want traditional family values. They want some want the return of the church into a much more powerful entity, and on and on. And they are most illiberal society in existence. More illiberal than probably the North Koreans if they were shown liberal textbooks tomorrow. So Russia has, and then in Russia obviously you have these waves of all different things going through. Waves caused by both the postmodernists and the postmodernists and liberals. And I suppose the waves caused by the ideologists or the ideologues, those who can get airtime. And it is interesting with the president. He, I would say, is what he is not a liberal at heart at all. He is a conservative by nature, and he is in a very difficult position. And he will not be remembered well in Russian history, but he will be remembered well in liberal Western history, even though he is the most not very hardly liberal out of all the people in his party and in his cabinet. Personally, very conservative. He is, but his main thing is managing the nation of Russia, and managing his role and managing his people. His job is not to promote an ideology. He's the president of Russia. If ideology is to be promoted, it should have been there long before President Putin. Yes, well, that brings up something I say quite a lot, and people go, "What? What are you talking about? That sounds bananas." Which is, we'll all miss Putin, both those who like him now and those who actually don't like him, especially those in the West, because Putin gave us all stability. Now, there's those in Russia who thinks he's moving too slowly, or who think he is liberal, which I would object to that as an individual. But I don't believe Putin is. But what he inherited was a mess, and a mess created by outsiders. Yes, Sean, exactly. Because explain that. Explain. Well, what I mean is in the 90s. So you have, I won't go, too far back, but so we have this importation of democracy. We have the Russian Federation popping up, basically overnight, while the communist and Soviet regime was still in power. So we're just having an internal-external discussion, everyone. Anyway, so while they have the Soviets still maintaining some of their territories, as a few have seceded by then, or been coerced away, however you want to look at it.
So what I'm trying to say is, what was put in was this Russian Federation. Okay, Russians came up with it, partly. Behind the scenes, not totally, hardly at all. Okay? Under Yeltsin, the West loved Boris Yeltsin. The West loved the Russian Federation. Ask most Russians what was the 90s like. Not very good. Ploha, and Bolshoi Ploha, if that's even a applicable translation. But it wasn't very good. They were good. They were happy to see the back of Yeltsin, most Russians, the average Russian. And Putin has developed a credibility of his own, independent of both United Russia, the party he is from and got elected to the presidency, and yes, and independent of the Russian Federation. So what people don't realize is that when Putin goes, and he's not going to go next year in 2018, he's going to go in 2014. That will be his last term, and one of his key objectives will be finding a successor and helping manage the transition. And the transition will not be from one party and president to another. The transition will be how and when are they going to dissolve the Russian Federation, which is an Atlantis, I can never say it, American and allies concept, and put in their own system. And what type of system is that going to be? Is that going to be, I know it's not going to be communist in terms of ideology, but how ideologically driven will it be? How forceful will it be? Because I can tell you, unless somehow the Russian people let the liberals knock things over, which I doubt very much, the new Russia that's coming post-Putin is not going to be a pragmatic Putin-style Russia. They're not going to play the West's game. And Putin is pre-framing, getting the West ready. So in a way he's helping for the fact that, hello, once I'm gone, you guys are going to have to deal with things that are going to be a lot harder when Russia says, this is what we want, this is what we're doing, and this is what will happen if you get in the way. It won't be like the whole jets in Syria, some are shot down, some aren't. We go and say this, that, and the other. Sanctions here, sanctions there. It'll be, you shot down a Russian jet. Okay, war. That will change the ball game, because that will be when ideologies are reintroduced. An empire will have risen. And that's just one. You've got China rising as well. This is why the US is running around, and their allies. But a lot of our allies, I predict, I'm not sure about you, Vlad, but they're allies because they've got guns pointed to their heads and treaties that they have to follow. But if America was under constant total attack, plus had civil war, how many of their allies are going to run and help? And is Canada more likely the one going to want a wall to stop people running in? Yeah. Anyway, so what do you think, Count?
Well, Sean, yes. You sum up nicely the Federation, the Russian Federation. Ask most Russians. If you will not vote for Putin, who would you want president? And ask them, when Putin is gone, would you accept a party that would get rid of the Russian Federation and bring something new or something similar to what you had before that would broaden the borders of Russia, or something with some belief? Because, Sean, a point you miss out. And what was that? They are not allowed to have overtly an ideology. Yes, that is correct. No ideology. United Russia, or the ruling party, the party in power, is not allowed to have an ideology. So people will say in the West, United Russia or Vladimir Putin is a Christian conservative, authoritarian, they will even say. I didn't say that. This is what Western mainstream media, fake news say. They say these things. But strictly forbidden is to have ideology. And who put that in there? Who would put the clause, no ideology? Well, the winners, so-called, of the Cold War, yes? In helping set up this Russian Federation, we put in here, because you had communist ideology and you almost beat us. No ideology for you, not allowed to think. And look, European have liberal democracy. It works very fine over there. Look, you can have nice things. Have McDonald's, good food. There, eat, yes, go, yeah. It did not last long. Did not last long, but it caused a lot of damage to people, a lot of damage to the society. And Putin is not a magician. He cannot change things overnight. He cannot throw out all oligarchs at once. Otherwise, yes, he would be called authoritarian. He is doing things in a rather democratic, systematic, moral process. He is trying to nationalize. He's been nationalizing things over time. And this is the future of Russia, and in terms of Putin, is his job is to bring things to a point where they are ready, and then he needs to find the people or persons who the Russian people would be accepting of as leaders to take them further in the direction of a new Russian empire. Yes. Well, now, when you first hear that, I've heard that a few times. When you first hear that, you go, oh, golly, because it's a big change to the world. But the world is changing, and it won't be just Russia. It will be China as well, to some degree. I don't know what degree. We don't know what degree Russia will be either. I mean, it's with every country. Russians say this, but it's not just Russians. With every country, the only real opposition is internal. And once the people get together and decide they're all together as a majority, and that the real enemy, if there is one, is out there, and they define it well, they're all set to go. It's those ones that are bickering and quarrelling amongst each other that don't get things done. Now, in certain times, that is used to sort things out, as in Russia. Okay, they've got a lot to sort out. So would it be a good time to unite under something? Perhaps not while everyone's starving, in the 1990s. But as they get things sorted out, time to formulate an identity or remember an identity that we once had. Definitely. China, you have similar situation, similar but very different as to how it's come about. And that identity, how it's forming. I mean, we're talking about countries that have had empires and dynasties and whatnot going back centuries. The USA and NATO have been here for, NATO not very long at all, and the USA a couple hundred years. Okay, you may say Australia and Canada, not that long, okay, but they're Commonwealth countries. So they're from the British Empire, so they go back hundreds of years also. And so we have things like Brexit, and we have all these other things that make you think, well, are we returning to a stage of a multipolar world? And people who are experts in this area love to shove, America in with a lot of the other Anglo countries, as it were. And I'm going to use that word now because later on it's going to become a thing. But yeah,
And whether that's just because it's reasonable and logical at the moment, or because they don't really care, or it's the truth, I'm not sure. But personally, I wouldn't mind if we could have like a peaceful return of the UK in some form. I'm putting that with an exclamation mark, and I'm not supposed to have opinions. I'm just sort of brainstorming with the audience here. So feel free to ask questions, and I'll answer them next time, because we're just thinking. Aren't we, Dracula? Count. Of course, Sean, just thinking, or trying to think, at 3:30 a.m. Yes, I should find better times to do these things, shouldn't I? Sean, there is no time like the present. Oh, shut up. Okay. But yes, so non-linear welfare. I can include that too. Non-linear warfare. A war which is the Fifth World War, and one you and I and your mother and your father and any family you have alive and friends in some way, shape or form are, have or will be involved in. How does that set for you? Just be with that for a minute. Realize that in some way, shape or form you are part of, or will be part of, or even have been part of the Fifth World War. You have taken a side, you don't know necessarily which side, you don't necessarily know why. But you're part of it, and therefore you can be attacked because of that. So take a look around. Learn where this came from. And when we talk about Russia, we're talking about Russia specifically because it's an area of great interest, and not where this started, but where a lot of this was dumped. This goes back for a long time. And as I was saying, those groups of people, or those nations who have just sprung up over the last couple hundred years, formed their own identity, a political identity, a political ideology that the rest of us must adhere to. And disconnected from heritage, empires, their common ancestors, and whatnot, I would say they are in for a bit of a shock. This nation could not defeat, hasn't really won a war against anyone except themselves. They lost the Vietnam War. They have lost every war in the Middle East. They've lost every Iraq war. They tried to bring it up again and again and again. Because they don't know how to conduct these types of wars. They're conducting non-linear warfare. They know how to conduct that. But are they ready to really conduct that? Because they threw how to do this at other countries, like Russia. And those countries have perfected this. So, the Americans are playing catch-up by legitimately selecting themselves Donald Trump, this great distraction. We talked about distractions in our previous program. In a world where what he says, the audience knows, doesn't need to be true. And it doesn't matter if it is. It's all part of the show. The West is having a little bit of trouble getting used to that. That you don't have to pretend your lie is real. And Donald Trump is very uncomfortable with that. And it's not necessarily about pretending your lie is real or believing in your lie. It's just having a more open awareness of the reality of the fact we are in a war, a non-linear war. And so to expect the truth of a head of state in terms of facts, they'll give you the truth. The truth is out there. But for them to give you the facts, well, that could be suicide for their nation. But for them to give you a truth, or the truth, that is perfectly reasonable, and there's plenty to go around. I find it objectionable, especially on terms of foreign policy, when people blame certain nations for lying or not telling the whole story, because their goal is to protect their nation, to protect their people, to protect their national interests, hopefully. And hopefully not, some corporate interests or something else even more sinister. So the Americans are playing catch up, the West is playing catch up. It's unfortunate. And do I think we should all be lying? No, of course not. I think we should all be telling the truth. And we are committed here at Western Truth Radio and Western Truth TV to giving you the truth every time over the answers. That's why a lot of things will be quite long, and explanations will go in and out and under, and voices like mine will return and then subtract themselves and allow Sean Davis to continue to talk and end the program. Because we are here to facilitate your learning and understanding and your questions and our own ability to grow, question, and incorporate your beliefs, your ideas, your perspectives on what's going on, and bring voices to those ideas in our shows. So, if you have any questions, please put them on this video as a comment. So if it's on YouTube, Western Truth Radio, or Western Truth TV, comment your questions, please. We will read out the questions and hopefully answer all of them. If you have any statements, of course you can make them. I'm sure there'll be some nasty ones. If there's nice ones, please make them too. If you have any other questions, please you comment on the videos that they relate to. Or if you have more general comments, Western Truth Radio and Western Truth TV both have Facebook pages. You can comment or message those Facebook pages, and they'll be included in the links in the description to this video. So, in conclusion, Count, where are you gone? Flying around the room.
Yes, Sean Davis. In conclusion, the war has started. It is the Fifth World War. It is a non-linear war. You, unfortunately, willingly or unwillingly, most likely at some level of your being, willingly, but a majority unwillingly, are now at war. You with what? You most likely know not. But welcome to the Fifth World War, where the soldier and the civilian merge, where the digital and the analog merge, where borders cease to exist, then come back into being and form new areas, where resistance is controlled revolution, where stability and security is volatility, where up is down and down is up, and you only know what you truly know to be the truth. I'm Count Vladimir Dracula. I will speak with you again to ask me questions Ask me. You can direct them to Sean, you can direct them to me, you can direct them to the show. You can ask either of us. You can ask anything you desire. We are here to facilitate the truth. Sean Davis. Alright. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Dracula. Well, that's been a very long show. I think we've gone well over time, whatever time is. Well over half an hour, probably a 45-minute interview there. So, I'm Sean Davis. Good night, world.